Hello. I must say it's a beautiful day. I was going to try and take advantage of the lighting, but I don't think it does me any favours anyway. But I wanted to touch on the diagnosis part. At the end of my last video, I said it depends why you want a diagnosis. Now, it sounds a bit silly, but it's not, in the respect that I home educate, which is wonderful when it's a beautiful day like today. But because I went private with Orin, because of him having the pathological demand avoidance, his diagnosis was actually 2 years ago. And that was when it was incredibly new. And I really wanted some answers for myself, because I very much thought that it was my parenting, thanks to some comments that were made by family members. Now, with that in mind, I wanted peace of mind that it wasn't, because Orin was poorly when he was born. It was made out that I had basically made him the way he is because of the way I parent him. Now, as a lot of parents with children with PDA know, there is a certain way that you parent a child with PDA because of the way that they work and how they manage, and obviously being in control is how they they cope with their anxiety. So that's the reason I parent the way I do. I'll obviously touch onto that a little bit more when we go into the videos a bit more. But I just wanted to touch on that because obviously at the end of the video I did say that the reasons why you want a diagnosis. Because again, if you home educate as well, sometimes if your path is to home educate from start to finish, you are the only one who's going to be in control of his education, his therapies, your child, not his, but you're the one in control. So with Orin, we do our own kind of therapies. We do Lego therapy with Orin. We help him with his fine motor skills by giving him intricate things to do. And that's how we do it. Now, had I known all of this, I wouldn't have got him a diagnosis, because it cost us a lot of money. And really that there was no need, because it's not something that we use for any reason. Obviously as he gets older, then yes, probably you would need it for work and things like that. But I believe, don't quote me on it, I believe adult diagnosis services are a lot more straightforward and a lot more palatable than the children's ones. We live in an area where paediatricians now are saying that a diagnosis is not needed anyway. So that was Orin. Lewis, we needed the diagnosis. He was in mainstream school. We needed it. It's as simple as that. But we assumed that when you got a diagnosis, you would then automatically get help. You don't. It's almost like every step of the way is another battle. You battle for the diagnosis. Once you've got the diagnosis, you're then battling for the adequate support for your child. Once you've got adequate support, that then mutates, the school changes their mind, you're then fighting for something else. It's a constant battle when you have children with special needs, always. So I would say, if your child is in school and you feel you need to start that diagnosis process, be aware that it's not just a GP that can help you. With Lewis, it was our educational psychologist who started the process for us. Now, any parent can request an educational psychologist. Now, if you don't have a supportive GP, or your GP has made that step for you and said to you, yes, I will help you, referred you maybe to CAMS, and CAMS has come back and said, not really, it doesn't meet the criteria, or community paediatricians, maybe he's referred to them, and yet again they've said maybe they don't meet the criteria. If you're in that position, contact an educational psychologist. Go to your local authority and ask to be put through to the educational psychologist's team. If your child is struggling in the school environment, they have to come out and assess your child's needs. They have to. And a parent, many parents don't know this, but you can request it as a parent. The school may tell you that you can't, or it has to come from the school. That is not correct. So that is all I'm going to say on the diagnosis side, because I know it is incredibly different. It's a postcode lottery. I know that because I've got many friends who live all the way around, and a lot of the care you get depends on where you live and whether you have to battle tooth and nail for it, or whether you actually, have it quite, I don't want to say easy, because I don't think any of it's easy, but you have an easier ride of it. That's all I'm going to say on diagnosis, as I say, because everywhere is completely different. If you've had a negative experience like I have, contact PALS. As far as health is concerned, contact PALS. Always take it higher. If you're not happy with a response, always take it higher. Just because at the end of the day, if there's a certain area that keeps making the same decisions, that a child doesn't meet the certain criteria, unless we as parents stand up and say this isn't right, and these complaints or these things go forwards, it's going to carry on being the same. If you then go forwards and say, right, this isn't right, he does meet the criteria, or actually your criteria is too strict, you then are making a stand. May not do anything there and then, but I always have done myself, gone to the higher bodies to say, look, this is not right. And 9 times out of 10, that has got me the results we needed. And that is very important during your diagnosis process, to make yourself aware that PALS will step in. At first I assumed that PALS were just for the hospitals, but they're the patient and liaison services, and they will liaise with the head of services and help you along your way, really. Like I say, I'm not a medical professional. I don't want to say anything more, but they are my firm pieces of advice that I would give anybody wherever you live. If you're not getting anywhere with your GP, go to your local authority and speak to an educational psychologist who will come in and observe your child, and they will come out and do that even if you home educate. So if you home educate your child, they will come out and do that also. So and secondly, if you're not happy with things that have happened along your journey with health or CAMS or the paediatricians, take that step forwards, because if we don't make a stand and say this isn't right, we're not happy, it's not going to change, and we're going to carry on with this same routine, really. Also, there is always the private route. I touched on the fact that I went private with RN. There are 2 specialists for pathological demand avoidance profiles that I know of. I'm sure there's more, but again, they are very helpful, they're very informative, and that's another route you can go down. As far as local authorities telling you they can't take a private diagnosis, they have to, as long as it's a multidisciplinary, meaning that there's more than one person diagnosing. So if you go to a paediatrician and they diagnose with autism, the local authority have more grounds to refuse. Whereas if you go and see a psychologist and a paediatrician, or a psychologist and a speech and language therapist, the local authority cannot tell you they won't accept the diagnosis, because that is a fully fledged diagnosis. And they can't turn it down. The same with health. They can say, well, it's a private, they have to take it. And again, if they say no, just go that step further. Go to PALS, or if it's the local authority, find out who the line manager is and go to them. That's very important. Really, that's it. I hope you found it a little bit helpful. It's very difficult with diagnosis and what path to take, because every child is very, very different, and we've got to give the health professionals that as well, really, that every child presents in a very different way. So I hope you can take something from this, and I will see you again soon. Bye.